There's a few ways of organizing your files within a folder. For example, if I come to this folder and double click on it and open it up at the top I've got my bars here, and I can sort the files within the folder by name. Click on it, that's descending. I click on it again, it's ascending. You see how that little triangle goes up and down? So if it's ascending, it's meaning from A, B, C all the way down to the letter S, or if I have any Z documents or images or Excel spreadsheets. The one I want to focus on is the stack by. Stack by is a way of grouping like files together. So for example, I've got some documents in here, I got some images, they're kind of a hodgepodge mix. What if I want to be able to group them together and be able to separate them and put them in different folders? Well, they have what's called a stack by option. So if I come up here and I hover over any one of these bars, you can click on its side drop down arrow and see if there's a stack by type. See, there's a stack by type. If I come over here and I click on the drop down arrow, there's a stack by name, and all it does is it just takes them and groups them into names. You can see here A through H gets dumped into one folder. In fact, let me go ahead and click on it. It actually dumps them into their different folders. It's stacking them. So if I go ahead and double click on the A through H, well, these are the ones that are alphabetized and grouped and stacked by into their separate folders, the letters A through H beginning with B to C. I can click on the back arrow and come and check in what's in I through P and double click, and I got a few documents there, and back out. Now that's a nice way of organizing your files quickly by name, you know, the first letter of the alphabet. Now if I want to revert this back to the way it was, where it shows all my files and not stacked by their names here, just hover over again any one of these bars. It doesn't matter for the name. I'll click on the drop down arrow and just click on sort, and it gets them out of that stack by mode. It doesn't dump them all into these folders or stacking them by name into folders. By type's kind of cool, because if you click on the drop down arrow, now if you don't have the type bar up here, just hover your pointer over any one of these bars and right click, and you can see there's the type listed. So for example, if I uncheck it, it's gone, but if I come up here and right click and go down and left click on type, it brings it back up, right? So I can click on, well, hover over the type, click on the drop down arrow and do stack by type. By type means it's going to actually group all the images together, all the Excel spreadsheets together, and all the Word documents. So let me click on stack by type, and there they are. It says in this stack by group, there's all my Word documents. Double click on it. There's a couple. Back out, and then Excel, and then the images. Double click. So it looks pretty nice. I'll click back out, and again, if I want to bring it back to the way it was, just click on any drop down arrow and go back to sort, and it dumps them all back. And if you notice that sorting by type groups all the images together, the Excel spreadsheet, and the documents together. So by type means what is the program? The type of program you're opening it up in is Word. It keeps all the documents together. If it's an image, it keeps all the images together. And the only difference between sorting and stacking by is stacking by dumps them into a bunch of folders. That's why you see all these little folders here. And it lists the folders' names up at the top that they'll be grouped or stacked by type within. And you can just say, look, just stack my JPEGs by checking that. And then click off in a blank area. And then hit the back button. And then go forward. See your search results. It's up at the top too in the address. You can just click on that. It's not permanent, so if you want to keep it permanent and actually have the little folders, then be sure to click the drop down arrow and click on the stack by type. And since it's sorting by type and not by name, I'm going to click on the name column here and have the triangle go up so it's sorting ascendingly, B's, A's, all the way down to my Z's, if I have any Z's. So let's see, now that we know how to stack by types by clicking on the drop down arrow and selecting stack by name, and hovering over the type and stack by type, and maybe if there's any others here, stack by date modified, click off in a blank area. The other thing we covered was sorting the columns just by clicking the up or down arrow for the name columns and sorting them by name or date modified, or by the authors if there's any author tags tied to it, or by the tags themselves. The one thing you want to keep in mind is that some of these features won't work in the list view. For example, if I hover over views and I click on its drop down arrow, there's not a whole lot of features you can do within the list views. You can do it within the details, the tiles, or the small icons. For example, if I click on details, you notice how it lists more items here by detail. You can hover over and click on the drop down arrow on some of these fields, and some of the fields you won't be able to do, for example, like group. See how the group's listed here? And I can hover over the name and click on the drop down arrow and there's group. Well, if I click off in a blank area and I change my views by clicking on the drop down arrow and going to list, then I try it, hovering over the bars here, the column headers, click on the drop down arrow, there's no group. So keep in mind you're a little bit limited by what view you're in, and if it's not working for you, then click on the drop down arrow and change your views. Let me go to details again. So that's a great segue into groups. And groups is going to group all programs by types, like Excel together, images together. It's just another way of doing it. Remember, you can sort them so they're sorted together in groups, but just by clicking on the up or down arrow by type, up or down. Or you can click on the drop down arrow and stack them by types. It'll actually group them into folders as you see them here. Then there's the actual group. feature, when you click on group, what it does is it actually makes it prettier when separating them by groups, because before when you sort them, it didn't have the headers here, like these are all your JPEG images, these are all your Excel worksheets. It just gives a header for each group here. So you have three ways of doing this. You can just sort it by clicking on the sort up or down button, right? And of course, if you want to get out of this, you can always hover over the drop down arrow and click on the sort button there, and it automatically gets rid of any filters that you apply to it, including your stack by and your groups. So you can do your sorts up and down. You can hover over, you can actually stack by name, which actually takes them and groups them by name into their folders. And then finally, you can also hover over and say you want to group them visually and have them listed under their groups here. Like I say, it's nicer and you can see them, and you can quickly have a preview without double clicking going into each folder, and also have the headings just right above each group. And again, to go back to 0, just click on the drop down arrow and click on sort. In fact, on any one of these headings here, just sort, and now it's sorting by type. But I like name, I'll click on it, and that'll do it. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.